So, in continuing of our space games, I have a game that I want to be able to talk about that has actually been in the BGG top hotness recently, and that's Terraforming Mars. I think it's like listed 4 or 5 right now. I know there's a couple of different games up there right now that I think are just having the hotness peak due to some Kickstarter
hmm
announcements and stuff. But Terraforming Mars has been solid on the BGG hot list for a while, and I had the chance to be able to play this game, and boy howdy, what a game it is. So,
Ooh.
have you haven't played Terraforming Mars, right?
No, I haven't. And I've heard just how great it is, but I really have no desire to play it. But I'll explain that after you give us a little overview.
Cool. So, Terraforming Mars. What this game is about, well, first, let's step back a little bit. Terraforming Mars, published by Stronghold Games, and it was developed by Jacob and Isaac Frixalius.
I like it.
Frixalius. That's a good last name. In Terraforming Mars, you to set up the game, you put a board game mat on the top of your table. Anyways, yeah, what you're trying to do is you're supposed to terraform Mars, which I think in our lifetimes, I think we'll see people land on Mars, honestly,
I
and I
think
think
so.
we'll get to this point. Whether or not it becomes extremely habitable, who knows? But this game is a nice little interesting peek as far as like the concept of being able to take the next planet in our solar system that is closest to us and what's it going to be like to make it habitable for humans. And so in this game, what we're trying to do is we're trying to win by having our terraform like victory points or our terra meter. Essentially, it's the amount of points that you have at the end of the game. And there are a couple of different tracks and things that are needed to be done in order to trigger the end game. So, one thing is that we need to raise the temperature from 30 degrees negative Celsius all the way to 8 degrees Celsius. We also need to raise the oxygen level from 0% to 14%. And then we have a total of 9 water tiles that need to be placed on the board. Once all those items have been completed, the game triggers endgame and scoring starts. So, looking at this game board, you have Mars, you have a honeycomb grid layout, you have like all these different tracks. You have like this huge like on the outside of the track, it's like these orange like button with numbers around it. That's actually mega credits. That's what they consider money in this game, or kind of like the point values. You have like these milestone and awards. It's a really busy board, right? Like it's
hmm
especially accentuated by like this orange border that goes around it. I actually kind of wonder if they took the scoring track and made it a separate thing, whether it might have maybe flowed a little bit better. I don't
Mm.
know, but it's a busy board, and so when you're looking at this board, it's really intense, right? It's like, how in the world am I supposed to play this game? When in fact, it's again one of those games where once you start playing it, it it goes super fast. Like each turn goes fast. You're going back and forth. You're making decisions. You're always engaged, especially in my two-player game. So that's kind of a little bit easier. But um, here's how the game works. You have a phase where you pick up these project cards. You pick up 4 of them. What you do is you look at these project cards, you take a look at them. Well, first, you also, okay, I'm so excited that I keep going ahead of myself,
I get it.
right? You, there's a corporation, right? You pick yourself as a corporation, and your corporation has like this asymmetric advancement or trait or ability that you have that allows you to kind of excel at one thing that maybe another player can't. So maybe you would excel at mining, or maybe you can excel at being able to put cards down or project cards, or have like special events go out, or some other stuff, or like making more energy or stuff like that. There's just like some little minor thing, a little backstory about your corporation that you're essentially kind of racing with other corporations to terraform Mars to make it habitable. So once you do that, every turn of this game, what ends up happening is that you look through 4 project cards, and these project cards have different things that you're trying to do, different requirements in terms of being able to do it. So you look at these cards and you look at it and you're like, okay, I want this card and this card. So you pick those 2 cards and you discard the rest. And for each card that you pick, you pay 3 mega credits. All right. And the amount of credits you have is equal to your terraforming rating. So at the beginning of the game, everybody has 20, or defined by however, whatever thing you choose. And you keep those in your hand. And then going back and forth, doing an action per turn, what you're able to do is play these cards or be able to activate like standard projects, and you're essentially going until you can't do it anymore, right? So there are cards where like you can cause a meteor to hit Mars, and so boom, stuff will happen, and then like that takes like an immediate effect. Or sometimes like you can create algae, or you can create little cute plankton or something, whatever, that requires certain climate thresholds that once you do, you play this, you gain points and do blah 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 blah, and you start raising these things all together. And you just kind of keep going back and forth, and you're doing that. And it's not necessarily take that. It's just like you're kind of in, you're raising these meters and gauges, and you're just kind of, again, making these events kind of creep up from Mars at where it is today to having it be inhabitable. So all of the cards that you end up playing at the beginning of the game, a lot of the stuff is very much like minor. It's very like primitive, in terms of getting everything. But the more cards you pick up and you keep and you play, by the end game, you're doing like all the late game stuff where like you're colonizing it. You have like these factories, like mining, and it has this interesting, projection or just growth within the game. And so you're doing that, and that's all it really is just doing that. And then after you played all your cards, you gain a bunch of resources, and then you just start it all over again. And what's really cool about it is that like there's constant resources coming at you. Like you never feel like you're ever at a point where you don't have enough to do. It seems like you're kind of either getting like a bountiful resource in something else, but maybe not in another. But you're still getting a bunch of stuff, whether it be credits, whether it be mining, whether it be gardening, or just putting tiles out on the table. Like you're just doing, there's like this constant progression that I think always happens, and that's kind of how your strategy ends up playing out. So yeah, you just keep doing this, you're doing this, and then as you start getting through the game, you can collect milestones. So for instance, if like you reach a terraforming rating of 35, you can pay 8 mega credits and put a cube on that, which uh, nets you 5 points at the end of the game. If you have, what is it, like you have like a player board, and if you're up to like a production of 10 mining, you can claim the milestone to get 5 points towards the end of the game because you had reached the builder first. There are awards where you can kind of bet on yourself, being like, at the end of the game, I know that I'm going to have the most tiles that I own out on Mars, or I'm going to have the most amount of money at the end of the game. And so you can kind of bet it, and that goes incrementally up. And if you are successful, you get 5 points. If you aren't successful or you're second in line, you get 2. So, yeah. So, again, turns go really quick. You're playing it. There's like set collection, there's tiling, there's engine building. So like what's interesting is that it's like got these very different unique mechanics, and it isn't necessarily a jack of all mechanics. They do the set collection interestingly, they do the tiling interestingly, they do the engine building interestingly. So it's all very solid, right? It doesn't necessarily bring anything crazy unique or crazy good to the or crazy, I don't know, like mind blowing to the table, but it does all those things really well. So yeah, I mean, I was extremely impressed with Terraforming Mars. I would like to play it again. I don't know if I could do it with more than 3 people. I think 2 players was really good. It was a really good 2-player game. 3 players I think would be kind of cool if they knew what they were doing. 4 players, that's too much. I don't think I'd really enjoy it. But I do understand the hype behind this game. I understand why people like this game as much as they do. And I was impressed. I'm not interested. My friend is like totally into it, is like getting the expansions, has like all the new corporation cards, has tried it playing it with draft, has tried playing it with corporation cards that help with engine building more. The base game that I played was a lot of fun, and I would love to play it a few more times to be able to just experience it more and be able to have more of a strategy going into it. But man, Terraforming Mars, it's quite a game. I enjoy it. It's pretty cool.
That's interesting you said that the 2-player was your favorite, and that actually was the first time where I was actually interested in playing it. The 2 main things that have held me back over the past year or so are length of play and component quality.
Ah,
I just, if I'm going to spend that long playing a game, I just don't want to have to deal with a lot of cubes that could be messed up with one bump of the table. And now I know there are a lot of overlays you can get to kind of fix that, but I don't want to have to just first buy a game and then buy something to fix the game. Honestly, I'm sure it's a fun time,
yeah.
but playing it 2 players, what was your length of play with 2 players?
It was an hour 21 minutes, hour
Oh, that's
20,
not bad at all.
1:30.
Okay.
But you're right. Very quickly, you're right. The biggest con of this game is you need a custom insert. There is
Yeah.
no way. I mean, you could, right? People have done it. I've seen it being played without inserts, but playing it with inserts, having it all kind of quote unquote like decked out,
Hmm.
it's really hard. It would be really hard to feel like there's so many cubes that are on your player board, and they just give you a tiny they give you a piece of like plastic paper and be like, go to it, go do it. And you're just like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
like that doesn't work. That doesn't work, you know? But then again, I
Hmm.
think it also does keep kind of production stuff down. But at the same
Right.
time, I also feel like that is the best way to play. I think the enjoyment goes up immensely, and it is unfortunate that Stronghold didn't do something to address that. But also, it is also, excuse me, it also seems very much like Stronghold,
Yeah. Sadly.
you know, to do something like that. So it's just like, that's why, right? So my friend has kind of he invested into it, and that's like really cool. I don't feel like I need to own it, but I do now finally understand the hype. I'm glad I played it. I recommend you play it, but I don't think just by vibing off of you that it's a game. I think it's a game you will extremely enjoy, but I don't think it's something that you probably want to own.
Yeah. So I think my wife would like this kind of game as well, and it would just be us two playing it. And if I wanted to invest, uh, I'll back up. If I wanted to play this game a lot and then actually invest into those overlays and stuff, then it would be completely worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I just, how many games of this weight do I need? This goes back to what we were talking about with Death May Die, where how many games of the same weight do I need? Now, I don't think, on the other side of that, I don't think I have a game like Terraforming Mars in my collection. The other thing that is holding me back is that there will be a Vital Lacerda Mars
Yes.
terraforming game coming out.
Yes.
And that's the one I'm going to get. That's actually one of the Kickstarter games I forgot to talk about just quickly was
on
Escape Plan?
Mars. Yeah.
No.
So on Mars
Anyway,
is
on
Vital
Mars,
Lacerda version, which will be intense, but also Escape Plan, which is one of the Kickstarter. Yeah, we totally forgot about that.
Anyway,
one.
yeah, but yeah, that's, and so I think that will be my Mars terraformation. That's not a word.
Close
of choice.
enough.
Nailed it. Yep. It communicated. That's interesting. That's a Terraforming Mars by Stronghold Games.